Have you ever felt like your mind is a storm, overwhelmed by endless thoughts and worries? What if I told you there's a way to silence that chaos and reclaim your peace? This ancient philosophy, Stoicism, offers a powerful tool to clear the mental fog and live with clarity. In this video, we'll uncover how the Stoic way of thinking can free you from overthinking, help you make decisions with confidence, and live a life rooted in action. Stay tuned to discover the timeless wisdom that could transform your mind and your life. Have you ever caught yourself overthinking something you have no power over? Maybe it's a situation at work, an unresolved text message, or an argument from days ago that you can't seem to shake. These are the moments when our minds start spiraling, focusing on things beyond our control, trapping us in a cycle of worry and indecision. But here's where Stoicism comes in, because this is where true clarity begins. One of the core principles of Stoic philosophy is understanding what's truly within your control. This simple yet profound realization can free you from the weight of unnecessary thoughts, helping you break the cycle of overthinking. You see, the Stoics, great minds like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, taught that there are two categories in life: the things we can control and the things we cannot. And most of our stress comes from not being able to distinguish between the two. Think about it for a second. How often do you stress over things that are completely out of your hands? Take that work project, for example. You may have given it your best effort, yet you can't control how others will react, what decisions they'll make, or the outcomes that are ultimately beyond your influence. So why pour your energy into things that are beyond your reach? When you focus on what's out of your control, you drown in uncertainty, constantly fighting against the tide. It's exhausting, draining your energy and leaving you with nothing but frustration. Now flip that perspective. What if you focused only on what's truly within your power, the things you can influence? You have control over your thoughts, your reactions, and your actions. You have control over how you approach each day, how you handle challenges, and how you learn from setbacks. And when you accept this, everything becomes clearer. Take a moment to think about it. What do you truly control in your life? Not your boss's decisions, not the traffic jam, not someone else's mood, but your ability to choose how you respond. This is a power we often overlook. We get caught up in the noise and forget that we are the ones holding the remote control to our own mindset. When you master this, it's like waking up from a dream. Suddenly, you realize that the weight you've been carrying, the anxiety, the overthinking, was based on things you couldn't change in the first place. It's like carrying a backpack full of someone else's problems. By identifying and embracing what's in your control, you can start to see the world through a clearer lens. This is the foundation of inner peace. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, made it his daily practice to remind himself, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And that quality begins with understanding what's worth your mental energy. Now let's take a look at someone who truly embodied this principle. Nelson Mandela. During his 27 years of imprisonment, Mandela had no control over his circumstances. He couldn't control the government, the laws, or when he would be freed, but what he could control was his reaction to those circumstances. He chose to use his time in prison to learn, to grow, and to focus on his inner strength. His ability to choose how he responded to adversity not only kept him mentally free, but it also made him a beacon of hope and forgiveness when he was released. This is the Stoic mindset. No matter what the external world throws at you, you always have the power to choose your response. That's where your strength lies. And once you realize that, overthinking begins to lose its grip on you. You stop obsessing over things that have no impact on your life and start focusing on what truly matters: your growth, your character, and your actions. But here's the twist. As soon as you make that shift, you'll also realize something else. The things you can't control are often the very things that fuel your overthinking. So, what happens when you stop worrying about them? You gain something invaluable: clarity. Take that upcoming interview. You can't control whether you get the job, but you can control how prepared you are, how confident you walk into that room, and how authentically you present yourself. You can control your preparation and your focus. By letting go of the outcome, you free yourself from unnecessary worry and overthinking. You simply do your best and let the rest go. In the next moment, when you feel that overwhelming flood of thoughts, those what-ifs, should-haves, and endless scenarios that spin around in your mind, ask yourself, is this something I can control? If the answer is no, then give yourself permission to let go of it. Refocus on what is within your grasp. Refocus on your actions, your mindset, and your ability to choose. This is where true freedom lies. You don't need to control everything to be at peace. You just need to control your mindset, your actions, and your responses. And once you do, you'll begin to see the world with clarity, as the Stoics did, understanding that each thought, each action, each moment is a choice, a chance to act in accordance with your values. This is the power of Stoic clarity. By letting go of what you cannot control, you create space for the things that truly matter. You focus your energy on the present moment, on the task at hand, and on what you can influence. And from that space, you can start making decisions that move you forward with purpose. So next time you find yourself spiraling, ask yourself, what's in my control and what's not? Once you begin to answer that question, everything else starts to fall into place. And from here, you'll see that clarity is not something you find outside of yourself. It's something you cultivate within. And that's the true power of Stoicism. Stay tuned as we continue to explore more Stoic techniques to help you break free from overthinking and start living with the clarity, confidence, and freedom you deserve. In the age of constant noise and endless distractions, we've all found ourselves paralyzed by overthinking, by trying to predict every outcome before taking the first step. We imagine every possible scenario, every potential failure, and in doing so, we forget that the most powerful thing we can do is take action. This is the third principle of Stoicism that can free you from the cycle of mental paralysis. Focus on action, not guesswork. Let me ask you something. How many times have you spent hours, even days, mentally rehearsing a conversation or a decision, hoping to have it all figured out before actually doing anything? That's the trap. We convince ourselves that by thinking it over and over again, by guessing the future, we'll gain clarity. But in truth, overthinking often leads to one thing: more confusion. In reality, clarity comes through action, not speculation. The Stoics understood this truth deeply. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca didn't waste their time dwelling on what might be. They focused on what they could do in the present. And it's not about having all the answers, it's about moving forward step by step, even when uncertainty looms. Because here's the kicker, you won't find certainty by thinking. You'll find it by doing. Think about it. When you're caught in the loop of overthinking, you're not getting closer to any solution. You're just stuck in your own mind. You're in a cycle of mental spinning, unable to move forward. The more you think, the more paralyzed you become. But once you take the first step, no matter how small, everything starts to shift. Action disrupts that loop. Action is the antidote to indecision. It propels you forward, making the unknown less intimidating. We see this in every great success story. Look at the story of Nike's founder, Phil Knight. He didn't sit around wondering if his idea would work or whether he would be successful. No, he acted. He took a leap of faith and started small. He sold shoes out of the trunk of his car. He didn't wait for a perfect moment. He didn't overthink what could go wrong. He simply started, knowing that through consistent effort, clarity would emerge. He took action, and the path revealed itself along the way. Here's the truth. Overthinking doesn't prepare you for success, it prevents you from experiencing it. You could spend days writing and rewriting your plan, worrying about what will happen if you fail. But it's only through taking action, taking that first step, that you'll see whether your ideas work, and you'll learn from it. Success or failure is a lesson in itself. It's a feedback loop that helps you grow, but guess what doesn't help you grow? Waiting. Waiting for the perfect plan, or waiting for things to be certain. Let's say you're unsure about making a career change. You keep second-guessing yourself. You worry about the risks, the possible failures, or how others might judge you. And so, you keep thinking, but you don't take any action. The more you think, the more you feel paralyzed. But here's a secret. When you focus on action, the fear starts to fade. You take one step, then another. Each small decision builds your confidence. Each action takes you closer to the clarity you need. Take a moment and think back to a time when you acted despite uncertainty. Maybe it was applying for a job, starting a workout routine, or asking someone out. In hindsight, you might look at it and realize the whole experience became clearer once you committed to action. The idea of getting it perfect faded as you immersed yourself in the process. And that's the key. The process reveals more than speculation ever could. Here's the power of Stoic action. Stoicism doesn't demand perfection. It demands consistency and progress. As Marcus Aurelius said, don't waste time on what you could have done. Focus on what you can do now. When you stop trying to predict every outcome, when you stop obsessing over the what-ifs, you give yourself the freedom to act and let the results come as they may. That's how growth happens. And guess what? Even the smallest actions matter. You don't need to solve everything today. The most important thing is to start. Start by doing one thing that gets you closer to your goal. Send that email, take that phone call, schedule the meeting, take that first step forward. Once you take action, clarity begins to unfold. You start to see new possibilities you never saw from the sidelines. And guess what? If you fail, you've learned something valuable. If you succeed, that's one more win on your path to clarity. The key is momentum. The more you act, the more you learn. The less you overthink, the more you create. And the more you create, the closer you come to the life you envision. It's the paradox of clarity. It only comes after action. Here's a simple exercise. Next time you feel overwhelmed by thoughts, unsure of what to do, or stuck in analysis paralysis, choose one thing to act on. It doesn't matter if it's small, just take action. Write that first sentence, pick up the phone. Ask the question, take the first step, and notice how it changes your perspective. You see, Stoic philosophy isn't about waiting for things to be perfect. It's about doing what you can right now, with what you have. And through that, you'll start to gain the clarity that overthinking never gave you. When you focus on action, you begin to see more clearly, not in the future, but in the present. As we move forward, the next step we'll dive into is how to use reason over emotion to guide your actions and decisions, because often the overthinking we experience isn't from a lack of knowledge, but from a flood of emotion that clouds our judgment. Stoicism offers the tools to step away from emotional turmoil and make decisions based on logic, not fear. But that, my friends, is another powerful lesson yet to come. For now, remember this. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Act and let the clarity come with each step you take. Have you ever felt your emotions take over in a moment of stress or conflict? Maybe your heart races, your thoughts spin, and before you know it, you've said or done something you later regret. We've all been there. It's an instinct. an automatic reaction to a situation that triggers us. But the key to mastering your mind, to breaking free from the spiral of overthinking, lies in one powerful principle. Think rationally, not emotionally. Emotions are powerful. They are meant to protect us, to guide us in times of danger, or to push us to act when necessary. But they can also cloud our judgment, making us react impulsively and irrationally. The Stoics knew this. They understood that emotions, though natural, can easily mislead us if we let them dictate our actions. And that's where the power of rational thinking comes in. Let's pause for a moment. Think about the last time you reacted emotionally to a situation. Maybe it was a heated argument, a criticism, or a stressful decision at work. Your emotions flared up, and in that moment your reaction felt justified. But did it lead to clarity, or just more confusion? More often than not, when we let emotions control us, we act out of fear, frustration, or anger. We see the world in a distorted way, interpreting situations through a lens of negativity or worry. The truth is, our emotions can lie to us. They can make small problems seem insurmountable or imagined dangers feel very real. The Stoic philosophers taught us to pause and challenge these emotional reactions. To ask ourselves, is this really as bad as it seems? Is this temporary feeling worth giving so much control to? When we allow emotions to take over, we lose sight of what is truly within our control. And what happens when we lose control? Overthinking takes root. We start imagining worst-case scenarios, second-guessing our decisions and spiraling into doubt. But when you step back and take a breath, when you let reason guide you instead of emotion, you can see the situation more clearly. You can assess what's real and what's just your mind running wild. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, understood this better than anyone. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." What does this mean for you? It means that no matter what happens in the world around you, you always have the power to choose how you respond. You have the power to think rationally. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're waiting for an important email and it's late. You check your inbox every few minutes, your mind racing. What if they don't like my work? What if something went wrong? Did I mess up? The longer you wait, the more your mind starts to create stories, none of which are grounded in reality. You're not seeing the situation clearly. You're seeing it through the lens of fear and uncertainty. Now, what happens if you take a step back and ask, is this really something I can control right now? The answer is no. The only thing you control is your reaction. You can either let your emotions drive you into anxiety, or you can step into a mindset of reason, focus on the facts, and make a decision based on what is within your control. It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of emotions, to be driven by fear of failure, criticism, or the unknown. But as the Stoics taught, this is where freedom begins, when you stop being a slave to your emotions and start thinking clearly. The key to taking control of your mind is learning to recognize when emotions are hijacking your thoughts and stepping back to view the situation with rationality. Think about this for a moment. When you're overwhelmed by emotions, you're not seeing the situation as it is. You're seeing it as your mind wants you to see it, through the lens of fear, regret, or worry. But once you decide to pause, to take a breath, and to view the situation from a place of clarity, everything changes. You gain perspective. You start to see that the problem isn't as big as it seems. You can choose your response, and from that, you find peace. Now here's something to consider. Rational thinking doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. Emotions are natural, and they can be helpful when they are understood and managed. It's not about ignoring how you feel. It's about not letting those feelings dictate your actions. By thinking rationally, you create space between what you feel and how you act. You can feel anger or disappointment without letting it drive you to say or do something you'll regret. Rational thinking is about taking control of your response, not suppressing your feelings. Here's a practical way to put this into action. Next time you feel overwhelmed by emotions, ask yourself, what is really going on here? What's the fact and what's the story I'm telling myself? Separate the facts from the emotions. Maybe the facts are simple. You're waiting for a response or you're facing a challenge. But the emotions may be creating an entirely different narrative, a narrative of doubt, fear, or insecurity. By stepping back and identifying the difference between fact and fiction, you break free from the emotional storm and start seeing the situation clearly. This process is what the Stoics referred to as the practice of mindfulness. They didn't allow themselves to be swept up by every fleeting emotion. Instead, they made the conscious decision to act based on reason, to think before reacting. They understood that by practicing this, they could preserve their peace of mind and avoid overthinking, which often arises from an emotional reaction. In real-life situations, we can apply this practice of rational thinking. Whether it's an argument with a loved one, a stressful work deadline, or a personal challenge, the key is to pause, breathe, and choose your response based on clarity, not emotion. The next time you feel that emotional impulse, stop. Ask yourself, am I reacting based on my feelings, or am I responding based on reason? Rational thinking also frees you from the trap of overthinking. It's so easy to spiral into mental chaos, overanalyzing every word, every situation. But overthinking often leads to more confusion, more anxiety. When you choose to think rationally, you ground yourself in the present moment and focus on what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, and your response. The more you practice this, the more freedom you gain from your emotions. As we move forward, remember this. You can't always control the world around you, but you can always control how you respond to it. When you begin to think rationally and separate emotion from reason, you break free from the grip of overthinking. Your mind becomes a powerful tool for clarity and decisiveness. And once you master this, you'll move forward in life with confidence, free from the weight of unnecessary worry. Next, we'll dive deeper into the power of writing down your thoughts, a practice that helps you detach from emotional chaos and see things clearly. By putting pen to paper, you'll gain a greater sense of control and understanding, helping you master your mind in ways you never thought possible. But for now, remember, think rationally, not emotionally, because clarity doesn't come from worrying about what might happen. It comes from acting based on what you know is true in this very moment. We've all been there. Your mind feels cluttered, full of swirling thoughts and emotions that seem to have no end. The worries, the anxieties, the what-ifs, they all fight for your attention. And in that moment, it feels impossible to find clarity. But what if the key to unlocking peace, to silencing the noise, is as simple as putting pen to paper? The Stoics understood the immense power of self-reflection. They knew that in order to live clearly, to cut through the fog of overthinking, we must first understand what's going on in our minds. And that begins with writing down our thoughts. Let me ask you, have you ever found yourself overwhelmed by everything racing through your mind, unable to focus or make a decision? We all have. But the moment you begin to write, something magical happens. You stop being swept away by the tide of emotion and start to become an observer of your own thoughts. Writing allows you to untangle the mental knots, put things into perspective, and break free from the cycle of overthinking. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, practiced this daily. He didn't just sit around contemplating philosophy. No, he wrote. He used his journal as a tool to reflect on his thoughts, to dissect his emotions, and to make sense of the world around him. It wasn't just a daily habit, it was a lifeline. By writing down his thoughts, he gained clarity, control, and a deeper understanding of himself. So what can we learn from this ancient practice? The simple act of writing allows us to confront our thoughts head-on and evaluate them with logic and reason. Instead of letting your mind run wild, you're taking control. You're taking the swirling chaos of your emotions and transforming it into something tangible, something manageable. When you write down your thoughts, you give them shape. You separate the facts from the feelings. You create a space between your thoughts and your actions, and in that space, you can make choices that align with your true values. This practice gives you the clarity to see your problems not as overwhelming obstacles, but as opportunities to act with purpose. Let's break this down a bit further. Imagine you're feeling anxious about something. Perhaps it's an important conversation you have to have with a friend, or maybe it's an upcoming project at work. Your mind races. You wonder, what if they think I'm not good enough? What if I fail? What if everything falls apart? And that's when the cycle of overthinking begins. But instead of letting it spiral, take a moment to write it down. Start with the feeling. I feel anxious about the conversation. Then ask yourself, why do I feel anxious? Write down your thoughts, and soon you'll start to see them for what they truly are. Just thoughts, not facts. Here's the beauty of this process. Writing doesn't just help you organize your thoughts, it helps you untangle them. What starts as a chaotic jumble of worry becomes a clear list of things you can act on. Instead of wondering about everything that could go wrong, you start thinking about the things you can control. What's one thing I can do today to make this conversation easier? Now, you're no longer stuck in the loop of what-ifs. You've broken free, and you've created a plan based on rational thinking. The Stoics didn't just write for the sake of writing. They wrote to understand themselves. They wrote to sharpen their minds, to clear the fog, and to find their purpose. And the more you practice this, the more you'll begin to see the same clarity in your own life. This technique is more than just journaling. It's about creating a space for yourself to think. In the world we live in today, where distractions are everywhere, it's easy for our minds to become overwhelmed with external noise. But when you sit down and write, you take a moment to reclaim that space. You're tuning out the world and tuning into yourself. This simple act of writing becomes a form of inner housekeeping. It's your time to declutter your mind, to remove the distractions, and to focus on what truly matters. Let's take a closer look at the power of this practice. When you write, you force yourself to slow down and reflect. You stop reacting emotionally to every situation, and instead you start responding rationally. You stop being controlled by your feelings and start being guided by your thoughts. And as you continue to write, something incredible happens. The fog begins to clear. Your mind becomes more focused, more decisive. You gain the strength to make decisions without second-guessing yourself because you've already worked through the thoughts that were holding you back. Now, let's talk about the practical benefits of writing down your thoughts. First, it creates space for your mind to breathe. You no longer carry everything inside. You write down your worries, your dreams, your fears, and your goals. By doing this, you create distance between yourself and your thoughts, which allows you to look at them objectively. Second, writing gives you clarity. When you can see your thoughts on paper, you can better assess whether they're serving you or holding you back. And once you can identify what's not working, you can start changing it. Think about it. Overthinking can paralyze us. It can prevent us from taking action, from moving forward, and from truly living. But by writing down our thoughts, we take that first step. We take control. Writing helps you turn uncertainty into confidence. By organizing your thoughts, you'll see a clearer path forward, and with that clarity comes the courage to act. But it doesn't stop there. Writing also gives you the ability to reflect and grow. It's not just about seeing your thoughts clearly today, it's about learning from them. When you write regularly, you create a record of your progress, your challenges, and your breakthroughs. You'll be able to look back at what you wrote and see how far you've come. That reflection becomes a powerful tool for personal growth. So how do you start? It's simple. All you need is a pen and paper, or your phone, if that's easier. Every morning or evening, take 5 minutes to write down what's on your mind. Start with whatever feels most pressing, your worries, your goals, your frustrations. Then, once it's all on paper, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What can I do about it? And if you don't know the answer right away, that's okay. Writing allows you to reflect, and through reflection, the answers will come. The beauty of this practice is that it doesn't require you to have it all figured out. You don't need to be perfect. What you need is commitment. The more you commit to this practice, the clearer your mind will become, and soon you'll find yourself overthinking less and acting more. You'll be able to face challenges with confidence because you've already confronted your thoughts, sorted through them, and found the clarity you need. To wrap it up, remember this: your thoughts don't control you, you control them, and by writing them down, you take the first step towards mastering your mind. As you write, you'll discover a sense of peace, a deeper understanding of yourself, and the clarity you need to move forward in life with purpose and conviction. The more you write, the clearer your path will become. And when you gain that clarity, you'll see the next step in your journey with absolute certainty. Stay tuned, because in the next lesson we'll explore how acceptance can unlock even greater clarity in your life. Let me ask you this. How often do you find yourself stuck in the past, replaying mistakes, or caught in the future, worrying about what might go wrong? We've all been there. It's almost like we're living in an emotional fog, consumed by thoughts of how things should have been or how things could be. But here's the thing. The present is all we truly have, and it's only by accepting it fully, exactly as it is, that we can free ourselves from the weight of endless overthinking. Acceptance is the secret weapon to clarity and peace. It sounds simple, but it's far from easy. In our world today, we're constantly told that we need to change, improve, or become better. There's always this pressure to keep striving for something beyond our current situation. And while growth is important, we must not lose sight of this fundamental truth. You cannot change what is happening right now by resisting it. The Stoics understood this deeply. They lived with a profound belief that the only way to truly move forward in life is to accept what's happening right now, no matter how imperfect, uncomfortable, or uncertain it may feel. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, famously said, "Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well." Think about that for a moment. True peace and freedom lie in acceptance, not in fighting against reality. We spend so much time wishing things were different. Maybe you're in a job you don't love, or your relationship isn't where you hoped it would be, or your health isn't at its peak. It's easy to let dissatisfaction fuel your thoughts and actions, spiraling into overthinking, overanalyzing every detail. But when you accept the present moment as it is, you stop fighting it. You stop battling against reality, and instead, you begin to work with it. Acceptance isn't about giving up. It's about letting go of the constant need to control things that are outside your reach. It's about being at peace with where you are, even as you strive to go somewhere better. Imagine this. You just lost your job. The immediate reaction is often, "Why me? What did I do wrong? I should have done more." You replay every conversation, every decision, and you wonder, could I have avoided this? But the Stoic mindset calls for something radically different. Stop asking why and start asking how you can move forward. The loss is real and the emotions are valid, but the pain comes when you get stuck in the what if and why me spiral. What if instead you accepted it? Not in a way that dismisses the pain, but in a way that acknowledges, this is where I am right now. How can I use this moment to learn, to grow, and to move forward. Acceptance doesn't mean you don't feel the pain of the loss, the disappointment or the frustration. It means you choose not to let those emotions control your actions. You choose to respond with reason, clarity, and purpose. Instead of spending your energy on worrying about what you can't change, you shift it to what you can control: your response. In life, we can't control external events, but we can control how we respond to them. This is where the power of acceptance lies. The Stoics believed that if you could accept the present as it is, without judgment or resistance, you would open yourself up to a life of true freedom. You'd be free from the emotional burden of trying to force things to fit your ideal, and instead, you'd be free to embrace what's right in front of you and take action based on that reality. This doesn't mean we shouldn't try to improve our situation. It means we need to stop fighting against the present moment, because that fight only drains us. When you stop resisting, you release the emotional weight that holds you down, and you can move forward with a sense of clarity and decisiveness. Acceptance gives you a kind of mental clarity that's almost impossible to achieve when you're constantly pushing against life. It's the clarity to say, "This is where I am right now, and from this place I will act with purpose." It's the clarity to look at a situation and say, "I can't change what happened, but I can change how I respond to it." And most importantly, it's the clarity to understand that this moment, this life, is yours to live. Let's bring this into practical terms. Think about the areas of your life where you're resisting. Is there a part of you that feels frustrated with where you are right now? Maybe it's your career, your health, or a relationship. What would it look like if you stopped resisting? What if, instead of trying to force things to change, you embraced the present as it is? By accepting where you are right now, you start freeing up energy that you can use to focus on what's next. Acceptance clears the mental fog. It creates space for you to act, for you to make decisions that are aligned with your true purpose. The alternative is to stay stuck in the cycle of resistance, constantly reacting to circumstances instead of making choices that move you toward your goals. This is the power of Stoic thinking. The Stoics understood that resistance to the present moment creates internal chaos. But when you embrace it, you find peace. You stop fighting against what is, and you start working with what is. And in that space of acceptance, you'll find the freedom to make choices that move you forward. So, how can you start living this truth today? The first step is awareness. Look at your life right now and ask yourself, where am I resisting? Once you identify it, take a deep breath and say, "This is where I am, and from here, I will move forward with purpose." This is not about resignation. It's about stepping into your power. Accept what is, embrace the present, and then make the next move with confidence. Acceptance leads to action. Once you accept the present moment as it is, you can begin to take action from a place of clarity, not emotional confusion. You stop being paralyzed by indecision or worry, and you take the next step in the direction of your true purpose. And now, as we move to the next part of this journey, we'll explore how the Stoics taught us to limit information and eliminate distractions, allowing us to stay focused on what truly matters. Because clarity comes when you strip away the noise and focus on what's essential. Stay tuned. We live in an age where information is at our fingertips, constantly bombarding us from every direction. News, social media, emails, and endless notifications, each vying for our attention. It's no wonder we often feel overwhelmed, like we're drowning in a sea of information. But here's the hard truth: more information doesn't lead to clarity. It leads to confusion. Think about it. When was the last time you sat down scrolling through your phone only to feel exhausted by the end of it? You've consumed hours of information, yet you feel more lost, more unsure, and more anxious than before. This is the very problem the Stoics warned us about. Too much noise, too much distraction, too little focus. Let's go back to a principle that has stood the test of time. Clarity comes from simplicity, and simplicity isn't found in more, it's found in less. The Stoics understood this principle intimately, knowing that our minds, just like any other tool, require space and quiet to function at their best. We can't be effective if we're constantly plugged into everything. Now, I want you to take a moment and reflect on the amount of information you consume daily. How much of it is truly essential to your growth, your purpose, your goals? How much of it is just noise, things that you feel obligated to know but don't actually add value to your life? One of the most powerful tools you can use to regain control over your mind is to limit the information you consume. It's about making intentional choices, choosing what to listen to, what to read, and what to engage with. This is not a call to ignorance, but a call to discipline. You must ask yourself, what is worth my attention? You don't need to know every detail of the world's problems. You don't need to be up to date on every piece of breaking news. You don't need to scroll endlessly through social media or consume every article about the latest trend. All of that is noise. And when you fill your mind with noise, you leave no room for clarity, for deep thinking, or for focused action. Instead, practice what the Stoics taught. Be selective with what you let into your mind. There's a reason why the greatest thinkers, from Marcus Aurelius to modern-day leaders, limit their intake of outside information. They understand that the mind is a precious resource, and it must be protected from overexposure. Let's look at how this can work practically for you. Imagine your day as a series of choices. Every moment you're deciding where your energy and attention will go. Will you tune into the news for an hour, or will you read a book that expands your knowledge? Will you mindlessly scroll through social media, or will you engage in a meaningful conversation or work on a project that matters to you? The answer isn't as simple as stop consuming all information. Instead, it's about being intentional with what you let in. The Stoics weren't saying we should live in a vacuum, but they were saying don't let the noise of the world dictate your inner peace. Choose what you expose yourself to. If you're constantly bombarded by negativity, by unnecessary drama, by trivial updates, you will never be able to find the stillness required for true clarity. For example, in today's world, the news cycle can feel like an unending stream of doom and gloom. We're flooded with information about crises, disasters, and controversies. While it's important to stay informed, the Stoics would ask, is this information truly necessary for your peace and purpose? And if not, turn it off. Take a step back from the noise and ask, what do I need to focus on right now to live a life that aligns with my values? In practical terms, here's a strategy that can transform how you handle information. Start by limiting the sources. Choose a few credible sources that align with your goals, your values, and your curiosity. Instead of jumping from one news site to the next, find a reliable newsletter or a trusted platform and stick to it. This cuts through the clutter and ensures that you're not caught up in endless cycles of information overload. Next, schedule your information intake. Don't let information sneak into every corner of your day. Set aside a specific time to catch up on the news or check your social media accounts and then move on. You don't need to be constantly updating yourself. Give yourself time to focus on deeper work that aligns with your bigger goals. Another powerful practice is the daily digital detox. This means giving yourself some time every day where you don't engage with technology at all. It could be an hour in the morning or a few hours before bed. No emails, no social media, no news, just you, your thoughts, and space to breathe. This is not only a gift to your mind, but it's also essential for personal growth. By disconnecting from the constant stream of external input, you give yourself the ability to tune into your inner thoughts, your instincts, and your creativity. I want to make this even more personal. Think about your own life and what information you've been over-consuming. Is it social media? Constant checking of your phone for messages and updates? Maybe it's scrolling through news websites or following 1,000 influencers online. Now, think about how that information makes you feel. Does it energize you? Does it make you more productive or focused? Or does it drain you, confuse you, and create unnecessary stress? The truth is, we live in a world that is obsessed with information. We're taught that more is better, but more isn't better. More is overwhelming. The Stoics understood this, and that's why they practiced restraint, limiting the distractions and distractions that could cloud their judgment. They knew that less is often more. If you want to live a more focused, clear, and decisive life, start by removing the noise. Eliminate the irrelevant, the trivial, and the chaotic. Choose what matters. Choose what helps you grow, what helps you live in alignment with your true self, and what serves your purpose. And by doing so, you'll free up the space in your mind for clarity and action. As we move forward, we will explore the next principle, how to embrace the present moment and stop letting your mind be controlled by the past or future. But for now, I challenge you to begin limiting your information intake. Choose focus, choose clarity, choose to stop the overwhelm. And watch how much more room you'll have for what really matters. Imagine for a moment that today is your last day. No more tomorrow, no more waiting for the right moment, no more putting things off. What would you do? How would you spend your time? It's a heavy thought, isn't it? The idea that our time is limited, that death is not some distant event in the future, but something that could happen at any moment. For most of us, death feels like an abstract concept, something that only happens to others or when we're much older. But the Stoics, philosophers who truly understood the nature of life, remind us to always remember that death is always close. It's not something we should fear, but something that can inspire us to live fully and without hesitation. Why does this matter? Because the greatest motivator for living well is the awareness of our mortality. The more we ignore it, the more we waste time. Overthinking, procrastinating, delaying our dreams, these are all ways we squander the time we've been given. Time that, once gone, can never be reclaimed. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, famously wrote, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death is always close by." He wasn't encouraging a life of fear or panic. He was teaching a life of urgency, presence, and action. The awareness of death doesn't paralyze us, it empowers us. It forces us to confront the fact that if we don't live intentionally, we'll look back one day and realize we've spent too much time waiting instead of doing. We often hear people say, "I'll do it tomorrow," or "I'll start next week." But what if tomorrow never comes? What if next week, next month, next year never arrives? When we live as though time is infinite, we rob ourselves of the urgency that is necessary to live fully. And you know what? The time we waste isn't just minutes or hours. It's precious opportunities lost, things unsaid, dreams left unexplored, connections never made. The Stoic approach to death isn't to fear it, it's to embrace the inevitability of it. This doesn't mean we go around obsessing over it, but rather that we acknowledge it daily. This might seem morbid at first, but there is immense freedom in it. By accepting the reality that time is finite, we can use that knowledge to fuel our actions. We can stop overthinking every step, stop waiting for the perfect time, and start acting on what matters most right now. The great philosopher Seneca said, "It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." When we recognize that time is fleeting, we stop wasting it on trivial matters. We stop getting bogged down in the endless cycle of unnecessary distractions. Instead, we choose to focus on what is truly important, on what we want our legacy to be, on the relationships that matter, on the dreams that are worth pursuing. We all know the feeling of wasting time, whether it's endlessly scrolling through social media, mindlessly watching TV, or putting off a project we've been meaning to start. These are small, subtle ways we choose distraction over intention. And while they may feel harmless in the moment, they chip away at our potential. They steal moments we could have used to build something meaningful. Let me ask you this. How many times have you looked back on a year and realized how much you could have done differently? The amount of time we waste through overthinking or waiting for the perfect opportunity is staggering. How many days have you spent regretting the past or worrying about the future instead of doing what you could with what you had right in front of you? This is why the Stoics urge us to live in the present. To stop delaying, to stop pushing things off, and to start living with urgency and purpose. The reality is, we cannot control when death will come, but we can control how we live today. This awareness of death isn't meant to bring fear or anxiety, it's meant to create clarity. It's meant to wake us up. Because when we remember that death could come at any time, we stop wasting time on things that don't matter. We stop giving our energy to people or situations that drain us. We stop waiting for the right moment, because we know that moment is always now. Here's where the power of this truth really lies. Once you truly understand that death is always near, you begin to live differently. Every moment counts, every decision has meaning, every relationship is more important. You will be motivated not by fear, but by purpose. You'll take action now because you know you can't afford to waste a single moment. It's not just about living in a rush or trying to squeeze everything into one lifetime. It's about being intentional with how you use your time. It's about creating the life you truly want to live. Death isn't something to avoid thinking about. It's something that can give you clarity on how you want to live your life. The knowledge that our time is limited can give us the clarity and urgency to focus on what matters most: our values, our passions, and our relationships. So what do you need to change in your life today? What have you been delaying? What have you been overthinking instead of doing? This is your call to action. Stop waiting for tomorrow. Start living now. The Stoics weren't asking you to avoid emotions or to be numb to life's struggles. They were asking you to live fully, to take control of your thoughts and actions, to live with urgency. Now let's take this one step further. As we move into the next principle, you'll discover how to limit distractions and focus on the things that truly matter, giving you even more clarity to act decisively in a world full of noise. But for now, take a moment to reflect. If death were staring you in the face, what would you choose to do with your time? The answer might be the key to living a life of purpose, focus, and clarity. And when you choose to live with this awareness, you begin to step into the life you were always meant to live. The clock is ticking, but the beauty is, it's never too late to start living fully. Let's keep that in mind and take the next step in this journey together. As we reach the end of this journey, let's take a moment to reflect. Everything we've discussed, from focusing on what you can control to accepting death as a constant reminder, comes down to one powerful realization: your time is precious. The Stoics didn't teach us to fear the end, but to embrace the reality of it. By doing so, we reclaim our time. Instead of letting life slip away in the endless loops of overthinking, distractions, and excuses, we learn to live fully in the present. We make the most of every moment, knowing that it's fleeting. Now ask yourself, how have you been spending your time? How much of it has been consumed by worries about the past or the future? How many opportunities have you let pass by because you were paralyzed by overthinking or waiting for the perfect moment? The truth is, you have the power to change that. You don't need to wait for some grand event to start living with intention. The Stoics teach us that the moment we accept life as it is, with all its imperfections and uncertainties, is the moment we unlock true freedom. So I challenge you, take action today. Don't wait for tomorrow. Start living with purpose. Every small step counts. Whether it's writing down your thoughts to gain clarity, focusing on what you can control, or simply acting instead of endlessly speculating, these are the building blocks of a life led with strength, wisdom, and peace. This video isn't just about thinking differently, it's about living differently, and it starts with you. So, take the first step. Pause, reflect, and then act. Don't let overthinking hold you back any longer. Live like you know your time is limited, because it is, and when you do, you'll realize that life doesn't wait for you to get it right. It moves forward with or without you. If this video has helped you, if you feel inspired to break free from the cycle of overthinking, then give it a like. Subscribe so you don't miss out on more powerful lessons like this. Let's build a community of people ready to live with clarity, focus, and purpose. Take control of your time, take control of your life. The world is waiting for you to step up, and now is the perfect moment to start.